Hey guys, John here. Today's patch in Harmor is called Fat Bass Pluck, and it's a nice little plucky sound, but it has some nice rich low end to it. So with that being said, this is Fat Bass Pluck. All right, so let's dive into this one. It's not too complicated to make. We're only going to be using one part over here. And as you saw down here on the mod, we have X and Y, and down over here in the notes, the X is going to be the cutoff and Y is going to be the resonance. So with that being said, let's dive into it here. So over here on the phase, we're going to be 100% running. So turn this random all the way to the right. And we're going to be using a mixture here of the saw wave and the square wave by having this mix knob in the center over here. Now we're going to be using this sub over here as well. So this first sub slider should be all the way to the top, and then the protect is also all the way at the top because we are cutting some stuff out with a crude low pass, and we want to keep this low end nice and rich and not really cut anything of that out. So moving on from there, we have the crude low pass, which is one of my personal favorites right over here. The cutoff is going to be at 63%. And keep in mind, we're going to be using this mod X to kind of move that. So if we look at the articulator, we can kind of see this shape here, and we're kind of just dragging this down a little bit here. So whenever we hit a note, we can kind of hear that kind of sound as the filter kind of moves. And we kind of see that reflected over here. And then we're going to be using some resonance as well. So this resonance is going to be at the low pass, and the value is going to be at 30%. And the interesting part really of this patch is that the more lower notes you play, you're not really going to get that much more low end. It's more so when you get to the mid-range kind of stuff that the low end really shines. So if we play something low down here, it's not really that bassy, but if we do something kind of around here, that's really where that bass shines, and we also get that pluckiness as well. So it's kind of like that plucky sound, but it's also that rich low end where you can use kind of like a lead and a bass at the same time. And it works well with drums. So moving on from there, for the unison, we have an order of 4 on blurred. The pan is going to be 54%, the pitch 50, and then the phase over here is going to be at 90% jump ahead. So not all the way at the top, because all the way at the top is kind of what I like to say is like a secret kind of thing. It sounds a little bit different. It's cool for some patches, but this one's not all the way at the top. It's at 90%, so keep that in mind there. So let's look at some of the shapes over here. So we have the volume envelope, and that's pretty much a very quick decay and no sustain. So because we want that plucky sound, right? We want a very quick sound to come in and then disappear very, very fast. And then moving on from there, we can see the filter 1 frequency, which we just talked about here, which we can also right click and go to edit articulator, depends on how you want to get there. And then we have the filter 1 resonance amount. Now this is going to be the mapping. So if you're unfamiliar with things like this, so we go to the resonance here, we can right click this, edit articulator, is going to bring us to the same spot. Now we look at this other menu over here, and it says modulation Y mapping under a lot of these different things. Now this curve here, this kind of upward saw, is basically mapping this resonance amount to the Y modulation mapping over here. So as we change this, we can hear the different sounds of the resonance moving. So that's basically how that works as well. And the same is for the cutoff. So if we go to the edit articulator over here, and this is going to be the envelope what we talked about, but if we also click this down, we can go to the modulation X mapping, and it's a similar shape, but just dragging this node all the way down to change the cutoff. And that's basically how that works over there. And I believe that's all we have over here as far as this list. We do have some effects that we do need to talk about. So we have some delay, some reverb, and some compression. So the delay is going to be on Pong over here, and the input volume is going to be 50%. We didn't really have to mess with the filters here, so don't worry about that. This light is going to be off. The feedback is going to be 30%, the time 3, and then the delay time stereo offset 25%. Next up, we have the reverb, and then the filter is going to be cutting off 235 hertz on the bottom, and then for the top, it's going to be about 4K. Moving on, the pre-delay is going to be at 0, size 40, the diffusion 100%, decay 851 milliseconds, the damping is going to be about 4K as well, and then the wet at 50%. And now for the compression, we have burning over here. So for the main amounts, 50%, the lows is going to be 47, so drop it down just a smidgen, and then for the mid band, 61, and then for the high band, 74, because we really don't need to push much of the low end because that bass is kind of already there. But as far as the resonance and the cutoff, those type of upper frequencies, we do kind of want to push that mid-range and especially the high end. And if you didn't see it already as well, on this division over here for the frequency, we want to change this to 4. Because if we didn't, if we had it back at 1, we have that weird thing going on. So make sure to change this to 4. And that's pretty much it. It's not very complicated, but you get nice, rich sound out of that as well. So if you'd like to get this patch for free, there is a link in the video description below, and you click it, you can download it and use it if you would like to. So if you're not sure how to install it, if you open up Harmor, there's this little drop-down triangle right here, and you can save the preset, just make maybe like a default, and that'll open up a window of where Harmor is going to be looking for those patches, and that's the folder that you want to put the file that you get from me inside that folder so you can load it up in Harmor. So yeah, that's pretty much how this patch was made. Let's play us out with Fat Bass Pluck. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.